Well, welcome to Saturday's devotional. We're looking at the end of Ezekiel. Oh, we're not that far ahead yet. Woo! Exodus chapter 25. The bread of the presence and the lampstand is talked about. Again, more details of blueprints for furniture, a table, and a lampstand. The table was for bread, specifically what was called the bread of the presence. The name basically means the bread was to be set in the presence of Yahweh. The custom of presenting bread on a table as a thank offering was common in other ancient cultures. The bread was placed on the table as a symbol of the divine provision for the 12 tribes. And so because of that, they could express their thanks continually. And then after the week, priests would eat the bread and fresh bread would be put there. In Leviticus 24, the bread was to be 12 loaves of fresh bread baked on the day before the Sabbath, and then the high priest and the family would eat the old bread. But see, in other cultures, the idea of bringing food to the temple was for the god, the deity, to eat. So it was kind of, you're bringing this to the god to provide for its sustenance, and you're serving the god in that way. And here in Israel, it's the complete opposite. The bread stood for God's provision to the people, as they were always in his presence, represented by that bread. Psalm 111 verse 5 says, God, he provides food for those who fear him. He remembers his covenant forever. That verse is kind of almost a reflection, a riff on this bread of the presence. God provides for us, not we provide to sustain God. The bread was a symbol that God always saw and would provide for their need. Jesus' line in the Lord's Prayer, what we call the Lord's Prayer, give us today our daily bread, or give us today what we need. Because food is a symbol in the ancient world as well of fellowship. And so the priests would eat food that had been in the presence of God. And finally, I'll point us to Jesus' words where he described himself as the bread of life, the one who satisfies, provides, and dwells with us. Definitely there's overtones or imagery kind of related to this idea that comes not just from the concept of manna, but from this bread of the presence. Then the lampstand, verses 31 through 40. The description of the lampstand is the well-known menorah, that 7-branched lampstand with that central shaft and 3 going on each side. And part of the analogy or the picture behind this menorah is like a tree with blossoms and buds. This lampstand was in a way an echo of Eden and the tree of life itself. It was a source of light within the tabernacle. And in Revelation 21 and 22, we read of a temple garden where the tree of life produces fruit each month, and there's no need for light because God is the light. See, the ark that we talked about yesterday, the table and the lampstand, are all pieces of furniture meant to remind Israel, through the priests who tend the lamps, change and consume the bread, and the high priest who sprinkled the ark lid once a year with sacrificial blood, that God is the source of forgiveness, provision, guidance, fellowship, and more. And so here's why this matters for us, or one way we can make this help us apply what's going on here. What do you use on a daily basis or a regular basis to remind yourself of God's daily working in your life, of his forgiveness, his provision, his guidance, his fellowship, and more? And as we build these practices into our lives as individuals, but as a community, may the Lord bless us and keep us. May the Lord make his face to shine upon us. May the Lord be gracious to us as we seek to live in and out of his peace. God bless.